Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our series, Visionaries United. My name is Dan Ram, and I'm really excited to be part of the Stage 2 team that is bringing this series to you. This one's particular focus is impact needed. I know you've been hearing this over and over and over again. There's no way you're not aware that the planet is in trouble for many different reasons, but humans have had a huge part to play in it. But one of the best part about our species is the cognitive ability to do something about it. And I'm very lucky that right now we have 3 people on this call who are actively doing something about it. And we're going to dig into that and see how they are making a difference, but also how you watching right now can be a part of it. That is why we're doing this series, to celebrate the Stage 2 ecosystem, but also to educate and raise awareness on how we all can take a part and the many different ways that that can be achieved, whether you know nothing about it, but have a heart for it, or whether you're very experienced and just looking to take it to the next level. So on this call, Dan Ram, moderator, facilitator. I grew up in 11 countries around the world. I'm currently in Aachen, where RWTH is, the university where I'm doing a PhD, and also the initiator of this pan-European competition. We've got a Canadian German who is in Berlin. We've got a German who is in Greece. That's a different story altogether. And we have a Dutch who is in the Netherlands, right across the border from where I am right now. So a quick hello to Clara, Yip, and Wilhelm. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you for
having us.
Excellent. So maybe for a moment, if you could do like a tweet-sized quick intro of who you are, your role, and the institute that you represent, and your favorite animal. So, given that you've all raised your eyebrows, you're taking a moment to think about it, and Wilhelm looked the most cool about it, so we're going to start with you.
I would have said ladies first, actually, but okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Wilhelm. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Planted. We're enabling private customers, but also businesses, to become climate positive by not only compensating CO2 emissions, but also planting climate stable mixed trees in Germany. And in addition, we're currently developing a software for decarbonizing companies from the inside, so via the employees. A big goal there, because we want to reach net zero with our companies. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have a climate forester, planted more than 100,000 trees in Germany, and currently it's around 2 football fields every month.
Nice.
And my favorite animal, I didn't have enough time to think about it.
What's your favorite? You don't have to think about it. Just
I'm
the
a huge,
animal you thought about.
I'm a huge fan of dogs. I have to say, like, we have set a goal until February next year. We'll get a dog, my girlfriend and I, and yes, that's our main goal for next year, or one of the goals.
It's a big moment. Dogs are the best. Absolutely. Nice one, Wilhelm. Thank you so much. Clara, let's go to you.
Sure. I'm Clara. As Dan already said, I'm from Canada, but I also have German, and I'm the founder and managing director of Value for Good. And as the name says it, we try to create value for the good of society. And we do that through consulting. So I have a background at BCG, and we work with a lot of top management consultants to advise companies, public sector organizations, but also foundations and NGOs on how they can maximize their impact. And we're here at Stage 2 to help curate the Tech for Good prize and help leverage technology for good and help entrepreneurs figure out how they can bring in impact dimensions in their work. So that's us in a nutshell. In terms of favorite animals, as you can see, I'm wearing kind of a leopardy print. I am a feline fan. I grew up with 3 cats, so I have to say cats as an answer to that question.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Clara. Thank you for being a part of this. And Yip, finally to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Dresia. I am from the Netherlands and living in Rotterdam currently, where I work as a program manager for the Erasmus Centre for Entrepreneurship. So what we do, we develop entrepreneurial competencies, an entrepreneurial mindset within people. and we're associated with Erasmus University in Rotterdam, which is not the same as Erasmus Plus or all the other initiatives, EU initiatives that carry the name of Erasmus. We'll probably get to that. So I don't have a background in entrepreneurship at all, which is one of the nice things that I like about my job, that there's something in entrepreneurship for everyone. And my favorite animal, I think cats and dogs. That's kind of standard, I guess. I was going to go for a caterpillar because they can transform into a butterfly.
I dig that. That's good. I was surprised no wild animals came into it. I was expecting rhinos, or lions, or
some species we can impact. Survival. Yeah.
Need to, elephants, majestic creatures. So thank you all for being a part of this. All of you are contributing to the stage 2 concept. For those who may be watching and are unaware why this collective people are together, stage 2 is Europe's maybe first of its sort and largest pan-European competition for university startups. We see programs like this in other parts of the world. I know in the US, we've got something like that for MBAs and things where we just try to celebrate how entrepreneurship looks and feels different in different countries, different regions, and how universities approach it differently. But it's also exciting to bring it all together and see what the mix looks like. And I know last year was the first inaugural stage 2, and I host 150 events a year. So I'm doing this a lot. And I must say that stage 2 for sure stood out among the rest, because the energy and the power of college students coming together, sharing their ideas, growing together is just amazing. I mean, it's totally different than when you have bankers and investors, and no hate on the traditional kind of tech startup events you go to, but this was different. Not to mention that it wasn't just us, the organizers, that got excited about it, investors too, because we went from, hey, investors, you should come along and see what we do, to having over €1 million in cash prizes. And that was not expected. So they see the potential in this group. So I hope when you're watching as well, you see the power and the potential of being part of the stage 2 ecosystem in some way or the other. Let's start with the conversation about why we talk about impact, not so much about why for the planet, because I hope that's obvious to everybody, but why is this a separate category? Why are we not talking about impact just as part of any tech growth or innovation or vertical? Why does it need its own vertical? And in many cases, I mean, there's impact investors who exclusively invest in this space, and there are impact accelerators that exclusively accelerate impact startups. Like, why is it its own vertical? What is so unique or special or different about it? Who would like to go first on that?
Well, maybe to give you but I'm really curious what Wilhelm and Clara have to say about this. But at Erasmus University, to be honest, it was a really big victory for us that, the mission of our university is to create positive societal impact. So impact is already embedded in the mission of the university. And actually one of the values of our university is also to be entrepreneurial. So here you can already really see how, let's say, impact innovation is clearly linked with entrepreneurship as a driver. And to be honest, when I talk to students coming into our programs, coming to our events, for probably 80% of them, impact is kind of already at the core. And this might really be like a new generation of entrepreneurs or people working on entrepreneurial projects. But for them, impact is already really important. Like I rarely meet student teams that don't have any of the SDGs involved in what they're doing. But I'm really curious what the experience of Clara and Wilhelm is here.
I'm happy to go next, because actually I kind of had an inner reaction when you said its own vertical, because I would also see it as kind of the overarching goal and purpose that one wants to strive for, no matter what vertical one is in. Because in the end, a business will not exist on the long term if it doesn't consider impact dimensions, whether it's environmental, social, or economic. So for me, it's really something that's, as the higher purpose. But you can embed it in everything you do. And I do think it is important that we put a focus on it, especially in these times where we're talking about energy security and how can we achieve that, and where I think we're living in a time where we're affected by so many different issues, and that it's important to put those at the center of what one is doing. So I do commend Stage 2 for having a specific vertical for it, but I do think it should be everywhere. Also working with companies, the best ones are those that do see it as an integral part of their work and don't sideline it as a side vertical. My 2 cents.
Yes, I'm with you, Clara. So I think it's really an own vertical because it experiences a lot of growth at the moment. But overall, I think it's also at the meta level because it's in every industry. When we think about which companies to address our service to, we thought about, okay, is there any business or any industry which we cannot enter, right? And it's everywhere. And this makes me also hopeless, the other way, it gives me hope that we can manage it and that we will strive to tackle this problem because it's so growing so hard and it's everywhere. And I see so much change in every industry, and there are new technologies and new ideas, and more and more people wanting to jump on this wagon. So I think we're on a good way, hopefully. And yeah, that's my 2 cents to this.
Yeah. And maybe just one more thought on it. After 2 years of having worked and operated as a society, very individualistic, remote ways in virtual spaces, we need a reason to be motivated, and pursuing environmental or social impacts are ways to really motivate us again and to think about the collective. So I think it's in this time super motivational.
I want to pick up on something you said, Clara, that companies won't exist, and it's for their own good as well, that they have an impact element to what they do. I would like to agree with that, but I do think that is maybe more true in Europe. Now, I'm going to throw a couple parts of the world under the bus right now. Apologies in advance, but I work in Asia and Middle East, Europe, and in the US. So far, I don't work in South America or Australia, so I can't comment on those regions. But when I say I work, I mean I'm deeply embedded in those ecosystems and working extensively there. I must say that of all those regions, Europe not only is leading, but significantly. Like I feel that in some of the other regions, when I even mention something to do with sustainability, I feel like I'm immediately put back into, like 20 years ago, we used to have eco warriors, and it was eco warriors who fought for the planet and everybody else. And I feel like parts of the world are still there. Whereas here in Europe, and again, depends where in Europe you are, but for the most part, people are hyper conscious of even their individual role and their individual contribution. And they don't do it just for this, we got to save the planet, but it's ingrained in the very DNA and culture of good living, to care for the planet, to care for your neighborhood, to care for your community. And I must say, in other parts of the world, it's either seen as a luxury, something that only the rich can do, or it is seen as only in line with convenience. So UN SDGs and all are worth pursuing only if it's convenient. But if it's not convenient, it's not there, or it is someone else's problem. Like the government has to do it, or it's an issue of taxing, or it's an issue of accountability. But it's not me separating my garbage at home, and it's certainly not me making a decision on looking at the energy rating when I buy a house, because you just need heating, and it doesn't matter what the energy rating is. Whereas here, I think like these are, because I recently got a place here in Germany, and I feel even when I'm looking at the place, it tells me like the energy rating. And there are parts of the world, huge parts of the world, where that's not one of the elements that is shown when you're buying a place, because it's not important. So where do you think the conversation is in your communities, given where you're working? So Berlin and Cologne and was it Amsterdam, Rotterdam? Yep, where are you again?
It's Rotterdam. The
Rotterdam.
Other, yeah.
So how is it at your local communities versus how do you think the conversation is around the world? When you travel, do you still feel like there are audiences where their eyes open, they're like, oh, that's what you do. That's a solution. That's very interesting. I never knew that we even needed this. So yeah, I'd love to hear your reflections, because I certainly think the conversation we have here is elite in that it's not, I don't think there are that many conversations like this one right now in other parts of the world.
I would maybe, I don't know, I think I mean, I agree with you too in a lot of things, but then it also makes me wonder kind of like who were maybe the stakeholders that you were dealing with in those particular ecosystems, because if I can, yeah, give also the perspective of Erasmus Centre for Entrepreneurship. So we are basically active at the university, we're active in the city of Rotterdam and the region. In the Netherlands, but actually also worldwide. So we work together with the EU, with several UN organizations and universities abroad to develop more entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial education in a lot of other countries. So yeah, countries where we've done projects include, for example, Ghana, Democratic Republic of Congo, Mozambique, Oman. And what we see there actually is that at universities, so I can give basically the perspective of universities, that students and young people, that they are so motivated to actually make a sustainable and impactful change for their countries. Actually much more, I would say, than, let's say, in my perspective, Dutch students really thinking about, oh, how can we, make the Netherlands more sustainable? So in that sense, this is something that I've noticed. And yeah, the same goes for actually most universities. Or another project we were involved in Oman, for example, involved setting up an incubator that focused specifically on social entrepreneurship. And yes, it's not necessarily a big topic in Oman yet, but you do see that there are local communities that are really motivated to make that change. And then our role is to basically come in, do a train the trainer, for example, on how they can, in their local context, co-create and develop entrepreneurship activities, which very often do have to do with impact and with contributing to the SDGs. So that's my perspective. But yeah, I think, I mean, I do agree with you that Europe is probably the front runner explicitly, I guess, but implicitly we do see that there are a lot of local communities out there that are working on this. Maybe they're just not so out there yet.
I agree that at an individual level, there are powerful, inspiring people that are doing what I feel everybody should be doing, but they're championing it and they're leading it. Clara, you mentioned earlier before we got on that we had connected 2 years ago at BMW Respond Accelerator that you were part of. And I guess that's another good example of an organization that is identifying the individuals. There's a role for the entire ecosystem, for corporates, for government and all of that, but they've also found that it's people and empowering people. I think you were one of those people so yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is a role of people? Do you think it's a role of institutions? How do we make this change?
Yeah, I really think it's both, because I was reflecting a lot as you were mentioning your observations, and I think you're right. On the one hand, we basically in Europe have a system that's social democratic, right? It's built up with the notion that everyone pays in to then yield benefits for social programs, good roads, good whatever infrastructure for everyone. And it's a very mature system. It's part of the system, and that in itself brings along high standards as to what you also expect people to do and for people to kind of be mindful of society. Europe is also the regulation powerhouse. It's the geography where the most progressive advanced regulations in terms of, environmental biodiversity and privacy on the internet. This is where those kinds of standards get set. So yes, we definitely are in a system that enables that. Nevertheless, it's often when systems don't work that you have a lot of innovation that happens. For example, in India, I used to live there for a while. You had crazy amounts of social innovators who were basically fixing the problems that weren't being solved by government. In America, you also have a huge philanthropic landscape because of that as well. So I feel it's a bit of I feel here we almost have a bit less innovation because the system's already so advanced in certain ways. Yeah, maybe some kind of a balance. I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's really a mixture of having enabling individuals to really be entrepreneurial and innovate, and to have also the conditions in place for that, but also to have a system that promotes social good.
Agreed. It's not exclusive to one group of people or one set of organization. It has to be for everybody. But I love the comparison that where systems are good, maybe innovation is not necessary, at least not at an individual level. That's some good food for thought there too. I like that. And you're right. There's a world where, because of the inefficiencies and corruption and bureaucracy and just, you know, limited resources in some countries, people are creating solutions. That's awesome. Wilhelm, what are some of your thoughts?
I recently read a really interesting statistic that in order to change the system completely for sustainability, we need around 25% of the population that's really actively changing something. Now in Germany, I read surprisingly that we're somewhere around 13%. So it's like people, you know, that are actively changing their lifestyle or like doing a purpose business, whatever. And I think thereafter there's like positive spillover effects then to other industries and businesses. And I think we can get there, you know, so doubling the amount that we already have. I think there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. And then this will also have spillover effects to other countries, you know. So somebody has to be the leader or the first mover into this field. But it's also a competitive advantage. I mean, if you run on 100% renewable in the future, this is also an advantage, right? In terms of costs, in terms of sustainability, etc. So I think then also Southeast Asia, for example, or other continents will say, okay, this is something we also want to achieve. And then we have these spillover effects. So again, I have hope that we can do this.
Nice.
Yeah, but maybe to ask a question then there, and I'm really curious how you all feel about this. And I think it relates a little bit to Dan's point that you were making, because very often we also have, you know, student teams that are working on a solution that is very sustainable. But if that is the only, let's say, key element of their value proposition, in practice for them, it's often hard, right, to get actually customers, to get, for example, other companies to buy it. And I think this is something that obviously needs to change, because for now, it's great if your product is sustainable, but ideally it's also cheaper, or it should also save me time, or there needs to be another element in the value proposition to make it interesting. So yeah, this is something that I see that, yeah, we still have a long way to go here, I would say.
Unless CO2 gets more institutionalized, you know, so I think, I mean, you are already able to measure CO2, sell it, buy it, quantify it, limit it, etc. But you cannot just give out CO2 certificates out of new solutions. But I hope this will open in the future, because if you can really track, okay, we substitute this, or we have a new process there, you know, and you quantify the CO2 reductions and then sell it again on the market, then you can capitalize it, you know, then you have a revenue stream.
Yeah.
So there is something at the moment going on in the German forestry system, for example, very interesting. You are not allowed to give out CO2 certificates in Germany via afforestation. That's forbidden because the state makes use of it. Yeah? So now there are systems that are trying to track and quantifying the ecosystem by afforestation. And then you can give out CO2 certificates to, for example, companies who are planting trees. So suddenly you have a new revenue stream, and you're creating a market basically, additionally to the normal wood creation as a resource. So, you know, this again, I hope there will be more systems like this for other solutions in the market in Europe, for example, or maybe worldwide. which is then.
Is this something that Planted and Value for Good? Are you also involved actually at a policy level to institutionalize these things?
Clara, what about you?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that Value for Good is involved in directly lobbying the government to change these things, but we do definitely work on kind of the state of play of, you know, where the regulations are and where they're going. But I do agree that as long as the market forces aren't pulling people in the direction of investing in green and investing in that, it won't happen. If there's still a green premium, as Bill Gates calls it, it's going to be hard to shift there. So that's also where policy and subsidies can play a role to create the market incentives or the certificates. So I think my dream is that we have, you know, the smartest economists to try to figure out what is the system that, you know, and the right balance of incentives needed to really make that transformation. Wilhelm?
It's a difficult question. You know, I mean, we have a non-profit, for example, which is covering the B2C side because it's, I think, fair because it's money from end customers. But then the B2B side is a for-profit company. So we are able to combine it and, of course, cross-subsidize the B2C business. And the B2B business is, of course, scaling much more because it's for-profit and you get investors and that. So, I mean, there's this term for-profit, for-purpose, you know, I think very, very important, an enabler for companies or impact startups out there. But yeah, we're trying best of both worlds, which is not always possible if you don't have like two streams in the business.
Yeah, but just adding to that, it's so cool that you're saying that. I mean, everyone this week saw the news of, or last week, of Patagonia, and they're also kind of combining their for-profit with a for-purpose ownership. And we just also did that at Value for Good. So we have a consulting business that's does consultings for social impact, but it's owned by a charity. So we see more and more of these models existing.
What's been exciting, I think, is seeing the evolution of the space over the last couple of years and seeing new models for funding, new models for structural organization, new models of partnerships. And that's been really, really, I think for me at least, brought a lot of hope. And also what's exciting is to see that, yes, while there is, I know this is an initial question I asked about the vertical of social good or the vertical of impact, the reality is that when I do events in sports, when I do events in mobility, when I do events in medicine, the conversation always, so far, at least I feel like the last 2 years, has always involved significant amounts on how they're going to change how they do what they do because of this new pillar around impact, this new pillar around a better world, and they're taking accountability for their behaviors. I feel like that wasn't the case maybe even 5 or 6 years ago when I was hosting events, whereas now, I think for a while there was a decent amount of greenwashing, but I think now there's genuine excitement, and I think people are feeling a little bit empowered that they can make a difference and that they have the resources and the people. And yes, in the beginning, it might have involved a few incentives and you know, pushing and prodding, but I feel there are people now that are championing this, even when maybe they're not expected to, but they feel it. So I guess my question for you guys is, why do you think that stage 2 is one of those places that you want to be a part of and to make some sort of presence? What benefit is it for you and for people that are coming? Why stage 2 when you can be anywhere doing the great work that you do?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can go first. Yeah, so I think what I really like. So this is the second edition of the competition that's being organized, and what I really like is that while last year it kind of felt like, well, obviously the first event, right? The network is still growing. It's really about the competition. I think stage 2 can in the coming years grow to become so much more. And we're already seeing that as the network is just becoming more and more valuable, right? The more partners join, especially also, and this is, I guess, another thing that we already kind of touched upon, but maybe not mentioned it, is that it's not just universities being there, right? It's really, and not even the triple helix of academia, private sector, and government, but even quadruple helix with also society and individuals involved. And I think stage 2 represents a great platform for that. And I guess the event is already next month. But what we see, this is the example I wanted to give. So last week I was in Vienna because we were signing an MOU with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization to put more entrepreneurship into their projects that are often really focused on Industry 4.0 and digitalization. And while we were in Vienna, we met up with actually partners that we know via the stage 2 network. So I think these kinds of spillover effects and, doing European projects together, this is why we are there, I would say. Yeah.
Go ahead, Wilhelm.
Yeah, I really admire that the ideas that students have there are so great. Like I was there last year and I was amazed by the teams, by the ideas, by the spirit, and by the whole energy that you described then also. And I think that's super important for other students to come to see, okay, we are able to change something and build an impact startup directly from the university and thereon. So amazing event, amazing opportunity again. So I'm really happy to be part of it and also making the event climate neutral with Planted.
Now, for me, it'll be the first time I'm involved, but the reason why I got involved was that I really think the future is being shaped by the people who are today in university. And when I saw how many technical and management institutes are being part of it and how many students are involved and kind of the impact and scale of this contest, and that I have the chance to help put a lens on tech for good, I really thought, why not? And plus, now hearing you, Wilhelm, talk about it, I'm like, that's true. I'm going to be very inspired by all the ideas that will be there, and it'll push my thinking. I think one thing that I draw inspiration from is the next generation, and I'm really looking forward to being there and to interacting.
And Clara, I think you mentioned something else that's really interesting, because you said technical and management institutes, right? And it's also really about creating those multidisciplinary startup teams. So Erasmus University is a fairly humanities business known for its economics faculty, let's say. But I really think that is not enough. We really need to, make sure that everyone has an entrepreneurial mindset. So technical and business-oriented students can also really come together and create those solutions together, because this is another thing I think is really important if you want to build a lasting entity or a lasting business.
Yes, and it's a lot about learning also. I think when you're in the startup, you're learning so much. It's incredible, because you have to do everything by yourself and with your small team. And at the beginning of the career, I always say that the most important thing is learning. If you have learned your stuff and your role, then you're good to go for the next decades. So I think that's a good opportunity also for students to go into startups and experience the vibe there.
Yeah, and to maybe not only within the university and obviously a lot of universities are very international these days anyway, but I think to learn from peers and to see that there are startups in a lot of other European countries that are going through exactly the same struggles, I think that's also really powerful. And to create role models, obviously, of these startups.
Yeah, maybe the whole practical component. In university, everything, or often, it's quite theoretical what one learns. And in this case, you actually have to develop a solution to some problem that you've identified and maybe prototype it, maybe make a pitch deck for it, and it becomes really tangible. And then you kind of realize what's realistic and what might not be, and the teamwork aspect. So I'm really excited. Can't wait to be there.
Stage 2, for those who are attending this year and are watching this stream right now, it's going to be great. It's going to be better than it was even last year because we keep growing as far as partnerships and the funds that you have access to and the resources you have access to. And you're in it already, so you're benefiting from the amazing resources. For those who are watching this in the future and are curious about participating, along with what was just shared, I do think that entrepreneurship can be quite lonely. And especially if you're one of those super achiever students that is doing your degree, taking part in all the different student activities that college has to offer and building a startup, it can feel like it's just you. And I think when you come to stage 2, you will be greatly surprised and encouraged by the fact that all across Europe right now, there are bright, smart, ambitious, determined individuals like yourself that are working on things. And the purpose of this session that we just had was to encourage you that as you build and as you harness the power of technology and as you explore the frontiers that are yet to be discovered and overcome those obstacles, this whole space of impact, our future, our planet, our society, our well-being, is crucial. And I hope that it is a significant pillar of whatever you build in whatever space. And Yip alluded to this earlier, RWTH, my university is an engineering university. And I'd love engineers to come to stage 2, and I believe they come and are encouraged when they meet students from Ireland or students from Hungary or students from Greece who have a completely different perspective, because maybe they're studying economics or they're studying philosophy or they're studying something else, and they're bringing their own perspective into the space. But there are a few things that unite us regardless of vertical and all of that. And I think the very core of it is we're humans, we're on this planet at this moment. I think we all shoulder a responsibility to take care of our planets, to create a space for other people to enjoy as well. And so thanks to the 3 individuals we have on this call and the organizations that they represent, stage 2 is better and is creating this conversation, this vital conversation. So yes, it is an epic startup competition. And yes, we do have the best and the brightest students there. And yes, there is serious money and resources given, but it's also a place where we will have some great conversations, some great learning, some great awareness. So for those who want to know more about what you guys are doing, we'll put it in the caption and description, but can you quickly point people, first, who are you looking to talk to? And second, how can they find out more about you?
I'll start looking for people who want to have ideas and advice on how to build an impact into their business. And also any people who are interested in maybe exploring the consulting for impact space. We're always looking for bright young people to join us.
Nice.
Yeah,
Super.
same actually. We're also growing quite rapidly. So if you're interested in developing entrepreneurial skills and working on really cool educational projects with a lot of different partners, then yeah, hit me up via LinkedIn or email, which you can find at ece.nl. And yeah, other than that, anyone who is maybe looking for a little bit of advice on how to approach their entrepreneurial project, always happy to think along. So
Cool. Yep. Yeah, we're always looking for people who love to join our mission. Our impact startup is growing fast, so we're looking for people in internships, but also marketing, tech, for building the software, for sales. So there's always room to do more. So anybody who's interested to join, just hit me up at Wilhelm at PLANTED.GREEN, and yeah, looking forward.
And if you want to see me, well, I'll be at stage 2 next month, 20th and 21st of October, I believe. That will be live in Berlin, hundreds in person there. It's going to be really good. The atmosphere is going to be eclectic and electric. I meant to say electric. And for those of you who want to be part of this next year, please look up stage 2, find out how you can get involved, how you can be part of the process. And it's a rolling sort of thing. So whenever you want, go onto the website, get in touch with someone on the team, and they will direct you as to how you can be a part of this. For those who've been watching all the way to the end, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. I hope it has triggered some thoughts and some ideas and some inspiration. And I also hope that you will take advantage of the fact that 3 amazing people have said, reach out. If you are interested in the space, if you are talented, if you're looking for an opportunity, because this is exactly the sort of stepping stones that Stage 2 hopes to provide, is take that passion, take that energy, combine it with real work that is happening right now, that is live by amazing, inspiring humans that we have on this call here, and then leapfrog to the next dimension and do something great for our planet. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to the 3 of you for being a part of this, and I cannot wait to see you guys next month.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dan.
Can't wait to see you all. Bye-bye.